from SESAMM over 2 years ago now for our first London event, and Sylvain was the winner of our new entrant Talk Data to Me presentation. And my things have changed for SESAMM, so very much not a new entrant anymore. And Sylvain is going to talk a little bit about, I guess, the work that's required to make alternative data sing in the world of fundamental and private equity investing. And as I say, you know, in those years and the time before that, SESAMM now one of the powerhouses of the alternative data industry. So Sylvain, just checking you're there, you can hear us and we can hear you.
Hi, Ian. Can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much for the introduction, and indeed, I remember the conference a few years ago, and yeah, thanks. All right, should I share my screen?
Yeah, please go ahead. That's working fine, Sylvain.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much for having me. Thanks, Jan, for the introduction. And I believe actually we're trying to address here one of the other key, let's say, questions that is asked about alternative data is it actually just for quants? And we'd like to debunk that and show that alternative data is actually also for fundamental and investment and private equity teams. So what I wanted to show you today is an actual use case of a fundamental due diligence for private equity, where we leverage alternative data based on the web in order to conduct a complete use case. So just to start, a few words on the company. SESAMM is a 6-year-old company. We're a 40-people team, and we specialize in natural language processing, so text analysis. We're based in France and in the US. And we've been working with quant and fundamental clients for quite some time now. What we provide at SESAMM is actually a platform that allows clients to build a lot of different use cases. So it's based on a data lake of more than 12 billion documents. So it's one of the largest data lake actually available in the world. Contains news, blogs, forums, social discussions. So everything that is actually needed to assess the reputation and volumes of data and understand everything about a specific asset, whether it is a company, whether it is public or private, or whether it's a commodity or a currency, for example. We rely on more than 2 million different data sources and have 12 years of history. And we then allow our clients to basically run a lot of different algos on that data set. So obviously quants use that to build time series, and they use that to build proprietary time series. Very sorry for that. So sorry, that is the disadvantage of a live presentation.
I promise it wasn't me.
You weren't the one calling.
No.
Okay, it should be better now. So obviously quants are actually using this for time series creation, but fundamental team are using that to create dashboards and to build use cases that are relevant to them and to have a more in-depth analysis of individual companies. So the three main use cases that we have for fundamental and private equity teams are ID generation and sourcing. So that happens a lot for private equity firms, VCs, and also for fundamental teams that want to do stock picking. So identifying a list of potential targets, finding companies that are a good idea to trade on. Due diligence, which is the use case I'm going to show today with an actual example of a company, and risk management and ESG. So let's dive straight into due diligence. And the example I'm going to show today is about a company that is Rivian. We heard a lot in the past few days about one of the competitors, Neudata, where the founder actually resigned due to accusations of fraud. So we're analyzing a company that is not listed yet, that is working on the field of electric SUVs and trucks. And we want to address a few key questions that investors have. Is this a viable market, electric SUVs and trucks? Where is Rivian positioned versus other competitors, and especially versus Tesla or Ford or General Motors, for example? And is there actually some interest for the specific topics that Rivian is addressing with its products? So we don't collect any additional data. Our data lake is so large that we just have to create the request and look for the information that is available. So for the electric SUVs and trucks market, we have around 1.7 million articles and messages. We exclude anything that is related to electric cars or to diesel cars, for example. We only want SUVs and trucks, and we are able to go to that level of granularity. We then take a look at how that volume of data is evolving over time. So how many times people are actually mentioning that market of electric SUVs and trucks versus the rest of the web. If the number of mentions augments exponentially compared to the rest of the web, it is very likely that this market is attractive, as volumes of data and sentiment on the web is a good proxy for revenue actually for companies. And we see that this market has augmented exponentially actually by a factor of 23 since 2008. So there's definitely an opportunity in the market here. And we see that this market is growing much faster than the rest of the web and is potentially very attractive for an investment. One thing that investment teams ask a lot when we work, especially with private equity teams, is to validate the competitive positioning of the company versus its competitors. So every company in the world will send a deck and say that they are the best in the market and that actually they beat all of their competitors, and that a lot of studies show that. But we may want to have some information that is unbiased to concretely understand their market position. In this case, we see that Rivian in green is actually in a pretty good market position. Tesla is the obvious main competitor in electric SUVs and trucks, especially due to the launch of their Cybertruck. But we see that Rivian actually has a second position that is pretty strong. And considering the size of Tesla as a company, this actually represents a very strong opportunity. If Rivian is that visible in the market, imagine how big it can grow considering the current size of Tesla. We see also that some of the giants like Ford, for example, as we do a very deep filtering on electric SUVs and trucks only, some of these giants are actually not so strong and actually not evolving in the right direction. We see, for example, that Ford is losing traction in that market of electric SUVs and trucks. So not a company we would be betting on in the future in that specific segment. We obviously perform sentiment analysis, and we perform that on consumers, but we also analyze employee reviews, job descriptions, B2B product reviews on the web. Concerning the number of websites, we can extract information from all of these different communities and not just B2C oriented communities. We see that Rivian has a pretty positive reputation, much better, for example, than Nikola, which recently had some issues. One thing that private equity teams also appreciate is the ability to dive very deep into consumer insights. So what are consumers actually interested in? So what are the key messages that resonate in the market? Not only about the features of the cars, but also about how they are perceived. So luxury, style and design, environmental impact, performance, what is actually important to these communities? And we see, for example, that environmental impact in the field of electric SUVs and trucks is not that important, and that having luxury vehicles or high performance vehicles is actually considered much more important. We then perform that same type of analysis for the company itself. Again, this is a private company. We still have around 70,000 articles and messages on it. We even are able to cover very small companies and startup level companies with these specific use cases, and also obviously very small caps. So we have 70,000 articles on the company itself. And we analyze some key trends, some key themes automatically. We try to understand what is being said specifically about the company Rivian. We identify specific positive themes regarding anticipation and excitement of the launch of the new products, new features that are coming to the market, luxurious SUVs that are being considered very attractive by consumers. So all of that can help understand the position of the company.
One question, Sylvain, from the audience, I thought maybe you want to answer it as you go, which is from Vyomakesh, I think, which is how fast does the input data grow, and a question about lag as well. So if there's a news article written today, how quickly does it make it into your lake? So I'm sure you have some statistic about petabytes, but in terms of lag and volume of input data?
Sure. So in total, we have around 35 terabytes of data, compressed data. So it's pretty large as a data lake. It grows by around 3 billion articles per year. So it grows pretty fast. And in terms of lag, the maximum lag on the platform is around 5 minutes. For these types of use cases, we don't go that fast, and we don't aim at doing any high frequency trading. So that's not our use case, but it's 5 minutes so as to allow for intraday trading too.
Great, thank you.
And you're right, that's relevant. Our objective is really aggregating all of that data in one unique data lake and allowing clients to really request it on demand. So that's what we do for all of our use cases. And we're getting to that level of granularity of individual topics, as you can see here, like negative contents on one specific private companies without having ever tried to track that company specifically. We can, through modular tools, analyze the fact that, well, Rivian right now is accused of breaching confidentiality, has actually a lawsuit that is identified automatically as a key risk topic, and sees lack of results is something that is also mentioned by consumers. That's all for me. We do a lot more with these types of systems. And right now, we work a lot with quantitative firms and more with fundamental and private equity firms. We strongly believe, in our key vision is that in order to really grow these use cases internally, it's interesting to have platforms, to have tools that are generic and that go beyond just addressing one specific use case on one specific universe. This type of use case in private equity has been growing very fast for us, and it's something that we believe is important for firms that are less advanced in data. But it's just one brick and one type of use case with a system that covers a lot of different things. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sylvain. So just a reminder to everyone, we've got a couple of minutes for questions, so please do chip in if you have anything else. I guess one for me on that, because I think, there is, at least in the conference scene, there was a big focus on private equity. How receptive, I mean, we had 60 or 70 PE firms come to our San Francisco event in February. Do you think, maybe our American colleagues would talk about what innings the world of private equity is in compared to public equity? I know, how fast would you say private equity is adopting the message that you're sharing?
It's pretty fast, and I think especially right now there is a topic where we're seeing a lot of deals going on in distressed debt, etc., and private equity feeling some blood in the water, and therefore doing a lot of deals actually, which is a good thing for data vendors. And we see that basically due diligence has the quickest adoption in the sense that it's very easy for investment teams to integrate it, and there is no IT integration that is needed for these kind of use cases. So it's very fast. Either the use case can be addressed in 3 days, or it cannot be addressed, so it's a go, no go. The other large use case is really sourcing. So we see a lot of VC, small P firms going into this with the recent success of firms such as EQT, for example, with their Motherbrain system. We see a lot of interest around that. But this usually goes with harder and like more complex integration, because this actually becomes a key system inside the private equity firms and is usually very much linked to the CRM. So I'd say that's going quite quickly, but it makes for larger collaboration and things where there must be a real strategic engagement on the side of the company, while due diligence is just like very quick, easy deals and a good way to test data.
So a question from Joel, who I would guess is a fan of Westworld, which is what type of emotions can you detect? So interesting philosophical question there.
We track 8 different emotions. So the main ones are anger, fear, surprise, joy, trust, anticipation, and sadness. And so these are considered standard emotions from a psychological perspective. So it's Ekman's emotion, five Ekman emotions plus 2 that are added. And this gives us the ability to create a corpus that is generic from one language to another. As we perform these analysis in multiple languages, we have to make sure that we can annotate Japanese data in the same way that we annotate English or Spanish data, for example.
Interesting. Well, Sylvain, thank you so much. Great to have